When it comes to Social Security planning, the days of file and suspend and restricted application, those lucrative claiming strategies are gone. But how do you know what strategy is best for you? Historically, everything you read says basically you should wait as long as possible to maximize your benefit. The problem with many of these articles out there is really they don't take into account the taxes that you'll likely pay on Social Security. So what we're seeing is a growing trend of Americans, a growing trend of successful families that we work with at Reap Financial that are needing to actually take their benefits early, as early as possible, not necessarily because they need it, but because they'll net more of it long-term over their retirement. Today, I'm going to take you behind the scenes as to candidates that fall into this category so that you can identify potentially if you're one that should be taking it early rather than later. Keep it right here. Good day, everybody. Chris Heerlein here of Reap Financial, host of Wealth Radio on News Radio KLBJ, and host of Retire Ready TV every Wednesday on KXAN during the 6 p.m. news hour. Thanks for tuning in today. If you like what you see, click on the subscribe button down below. We drop new content every Wednesday. All right, so let's dive in. Are you a candidate to take Social Security early? The majority of Americans actually take Social Security early. The majority of Americans that do that do it because they need it. Now, the days of file and suspend and restricted application, a lot of those lucrative claiming strategies, they aren't available anymore. So what's happened is people kind of take it at face value. But most of what you read out there says, wait as long as possible, let your benefit grow by 8% a year, plus cost of living adjustments, turn it on at 70, and that's the way to get the max. Well, although your check may be bigger if you defer, are you really going to net more? Most of what you read out there, they're using gross numbers, not the net number. At Reap Financial, we look at everything through the tax lens first because it's all about what you keep, whether it's investment returns, whether it's what you're going to receive from your pensions, distributions from your 401ks, and Social Security. This is your money. You've been paying into it for a lot of years, and it can make a lot of people's 401ks look like chump change because the amount of money that you stand to pull out of the system can be substantial. So how do you know if you're a candidate to take it early, take it at full retirement age, which for most of you is 67, or take it at 70? That's what I want to cover today. I want to give you a kind of a behind-the-scenes look at how we identified this for families. And like I said, this is one of the most important decisions of your life, being sure you're getting every nickel out of the government's bank via your Social Security check. So what we're going to talk through today is some of the reasons that people fall into this. Now, people that have wealth, we generally see a couple things. One, they retire sooner than other Americans. Why? Because they've got a nest egg that can support that retirement. Number two is, well, families that have wealth, they likely have, built that alongside a nice lifestyle. And through the years, as they approach retirement, they've gotten accustomed to that lifestyle and they want to maintain that lifestyle in retirement. And a lot of our clients, they even want to increase their lifestyle. So with that said, your budget has a lot to do with your claiming strategy here. The outflows, the amount of money you got to pull out of your investments every month, every year is a big reason that you may fall into this category. So two things there. You're retiring sooner. So let's say you're retiring at 60 or 62 and you got a nice lifestyle you got to maintain. Well, in that case, you're probably pulling a lot of money out of the portfolio in early retirement. Does it make sense to supplement some of that budget with Social Security income? Now, obviously, you can do this one of two ways, particularly if you're married. Some cases you may see a spouse turn theirs on early while the other spouse is in deferral. And then about the time they hit full retirement age, they're jumping on their benefit. And then the one that was in deferral is now, they're turning theirs on as well. So with that said, there's another factor that you got to really think through, and it's that at 73 and 75, you got to do what's called required minimum distributions. You're forced to pull money out of your IRAs and 401ks. And for people that have a lot of wealth in their IRAs, 401ks, you may be facing large required distributions down the road. When you turn 73, 75, based on the value of that account and your age is what dictates how much you have to pull out. We have clients that have to pull out substantial amounts of money. It could be, $60,000, $150,000 or more per year. And that number typically goes up as you age up and as your account values grow. So paint this picture. We have a family, let's say, that retires early. They're draining their retirement account accounts, 60 to 70 years old. Over that 10-year period, their Social Security is in deferral. About the time they turn on their benefit at 70, they're going to get their maximized benefit, the most you can get because you've been in deferral. right? And then 3 years later, if you have money in IRAs, 401ks, you have to pull out a large required distribution. What happens when people take their distributions? In many cases, they may jump a tax bracket. Some cases, they may jump 2 tax brackets. If you fall into that, now you're giving exponentially more back to the government of that Social Security check because you've jumped a tax bracket or 2. And if it doesn't happen immediately at 73, for most of you, it will graduate. It will happen at some point. So you're giving more back in your 70s of a larger check that you've only been taking for a couple years. See, Social Security, you can take it as early as 62. And so you paint that picture again, if the family was taking it for 8 years and then they turn 70, they've had a lot of supplemental income through Social Security, meaning their assets, their investments, portion of that was able to stay in there every month, every year, because it was being subsidized by the Social Security check. That money's staying in there, cooking, compounding, breaking a sweat through the years, okay? Now, before I dive into the analysis, I want you to be clear, it's not one size fits all, but what we're seeing more and more, in fact, in 2023, this growing trend, families that had $2 million or more of net worth saved, 48% of those families, 48%, fell into the category of needing to take it early, not because they needed it, but because long-term, when we look at it over a 25, 30-year retirement career, they had more money at the end of the day. And a lot of that has to do with that compounding effect that's lost when you're draining your retirement accounts early in retirement. Okay, so now I want to dive into the analysis here, and I want to get you accustomed with what you're looking at. Let me kind of walk you through Joe and Janie Smith's story here. Joe is an ops manager. He's making $18,750 a month, $225,000 a year, and we're going to get him retired at the end of 2024. Janie, she's making a nice wage, and we're going to get her retired at the end of 2024. So our proximity to retirement is end of 2024, and their Social Security benefit amounts at their full retirement age is $3,000 each. We're just going to use round numbers today. Small cost of living adjustment in there through the years, no pensions, and then here are their retirement accounts. They've got about $350 in checking, they've got $800 in brokerage, they've got some nice 401ks that they're contributing to on a monthly basis, and then they got some Roth IRAs, which are our favorite accounts. Their homestead, it's paid off. That's great walking into retirement, about $750 of value. We're going to model them earning a 6% rate of return on their money, so we're going very conservative. Their spendable assets total about $4.5 million. The protected assets, that's their homestead, is $750. So they have a net worth of $5.25 million, $4.5 which is investable. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this family, they've got a nice lifestyle they want to maintain, so their current budget is $15,000 a month. That's a large budget as compared to maybe some of you. It may be small as compared to some of you, but $15,000 for a portfolio of $4.5 million. In most cases, that can ensure success. That amount of money can support that kind of outflow. So here they are. They're going to work one more year. We get them to the end of 2024, and then they're walking into retirement. And you can see here that their spendable assets are now at $4.8 million with a year's worth of growth. They're 59 years old, and they have no income, no pension, no Social Security, no rental income, nothing else. So their budget of 15 now has grown with inflation. It's now at 15.5. So what do? We got to pull out 15.5 a month, every month, right out of their retirement accounts to make their budget. So that's the shortfall. Now, because they retired early, here they are 59, 60 years old, and they're not, in this case, electing to turn on their Social Security till 67, which is their full retirement age. We've got a lot of years here that we're having to hit the portfolio heavy. That's a monthly number you're seeing there, year over year over year. Now, they're not even running with a 1% withdrawal rate. That's what that represents. They're under a 1, which is great, meaning that even though they're taking money out of their accounts, their assets are still going up. They're not spending the growth. That's a good feeling. So now they turn on their Social Security, $3,000 each. And so now they've got that income coming in. The budget now is at $19,985, call it $20,000. But see, now that they got the social coming in, their deficit has dropped. It's gone from 19.3 now to just shy of 14,000. That's a pretty substantial drop, which means their withdrawal rate is going to stay low because they've got those reinforcements. Now, Social Security has cost of living adjustment. That's very small. It's added in there. Remember, the assets are growing over here, and we get all the way down, and they run a 1% withdrawal rate around 90 years old. That's when we start seeing the assets trend down. That's when they start moving down. But now we're projected out to our mid-90s, still plenty of assets to support their retirement or healthcare, long-term care, and late life, and we get all the way down here to 100, and they have ensured that they are not pulling too much money out. They still have plenty of assets for their heirs and beyond. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, Chris, are we looking at gross numbers or net numbers? It's a great question. Behind the scenes, every single month, every single year, we are monitoring their taxable income, taking a standard deduction. Their tax bracket is 24%. We're taking taxes out every year on the distributions. So these are net numbers at the end of the day. And then you can see here, we get Social Security coming in, and you can see there, we've got their gross income. We can see all the taxes due on the year there. We can see their Social Security coming in here. 85% of it is taxable. So yes, all the taxes are being taken out. And then we get down here to 73. Let's go to 75 because they'll both be of a required distribution age. You may be asking, Chris, do you have your required distributions in there? Remember, I talked about that. RMDs can be a big factor. They have a $227,000 RMD at age 75, which means their income is going to be very high, which means their tax bracket's going to be high, which means their Social Security is being taxed, in this case, at a 35% bracket. A lot going back. Good problems, right? Taxes, they can be mitigated, but for the wealthy, they cause issues. So what we like to do is we like to look at the accounts at, let's say, 70. How much net worth do they have? 5.8, okay. At 80, 6.6. At 90, they got 6.5, and we get all the way out here to 95, they got 5.5 million, 3.4 at 100. So what we're doing is we're taking a benchmark, okay? Now let's talk about a scenario where the family is gonna wait till 70 to take their Social Security. In this case, with the family retiring at 59, 60, that means there's gonna be a full decade that they're gonna need to be drawing from their retirement assets, not the Social Security. Remember, we're going to defer it out to 70. So let's take a look at what that is, okay? So in this scenario, the family's got the same income coming in, but we're going to take Social Security at 70. Now, because we're waiting till 70, look, they're going to get an extra $720 a month per person. That's huge. It's a big increase, right? Only thing that's changed in this model is the amount of Social they're going to get and the age at which they're going to start receiving it. The assets are the same, the rate of return is the same, and so what we see is we get them retired, and now the budget of $15,500 is coming out every single month out of their retirement assets. But instead of that Social kicking on at 67, it's going to kick on at 70. So that's an additional about 2.5, 3 years that they're going to have to pull substantial amounts of money on a monthly basis out of their nest egg. But then we get it kicked on. And you can see that the deficit drops quite a bit there. We run a 1% withdrawal rate at about 89. So their 1% withdrawal rate actually kicks in about a year sooner than the past scenario. But we're looking at their assets at 70 and at 80, net of taxes, net of RMDs. There's 90 and then 100. Then we go to our final scenario where we model them taking Social Security at 62. Now, when you take Social Security at 62, it's reduced quite a bit, about 30% per person. If you take it early, you got to factor that in. But you're getting a smaller check for a longer period of time. That makes sense, right? So in this scenario, what we're looking at is we've got $2,100 a month. That's the reduction, okay? So that's the reduced amount, better said. $2,100, same assets, same rate of return. But now when we get to retirement, we've only got 3 years here now that we're needing to pull the $15,500 completely out of our retirement accounts. So in this case, we turn it on at 62, and we've got a drop in deficit early on in the retirement plan. So at 70, their assets are at 6.1, at 80, 6.9, at 90, 6.7, and they run a 1% withdrawal rate at about 90. The last scenario was 89. That's when we start seeing the assets trend down. We get all the way out here to 100, they're at 3.5 million. All right, now that being said, all three scenarios show total success in retirement. All three scenarios are allowing them to spend what they want, when they want to, and never be a burden to the kids. But at the end of the day, which scenario nets the most left to the heirs, keeps the most in their nest egg that they may need or utilize in late life? That's what we're really measuring here, after taxes, after required distributions and beyond. So here's what we simply did. We took a look at what their retirement accounts are worth at these ages, 65, 70, 80, 90, and 100. And by taking their Social Security early, at age 70, they had $6.1 million. If they had it at full retirement age, they had 5.8, and if they took it at 70, they had 5.5. So in their early years of retirement, Get this, in their early years of retirement, they have literally $500,000 less in their retirement funds. Why? Because they're pulling heavier in the early years of retirement. They have $500,000 less by the time they're 70 as compared to if they had taken it at 62. That's a huge delta there. Now we keep moving and we go out to 80. So at 80, they got 6.9. If they waited till 70, they have 6.3. We go out to 90. If they took it early, they had 6.7 million. If they take it late, 6.2. All the way out to 100, they still have 3.5 in the accounts at age 100 by taking it early versus the 3.32. So they're net positive $200,000 at the end of life, assuming they live to 100. If they don't live to 100, if they live to 95 or 92, there's even more that's left. In fact, you go into this a bit further, and we look at the full retirement age. If they took it at 67, 3.4 versus 3.5. At 90, 6.7 versus 6.5. At 90, you compare those scenarios, they're still net positive 200,000 plus. What's interesting about this case is there's not even a break even. See, everything you read out there talks about a break even, right? You know, if you wait till 70, you got to live till, let's call it 79 to 83 is typically what we see. That's the break even amount. That's how long you have to live to have it made sense for you to wait on Social Security, meaning you've now gotten everything that you deferred out of the system, and now it's gravy, right? But see, that's the gross number. That's not factoring in the taxes. When you factor in the net numbers, in this case, there's no break even. If they could continue to live maybe to 105, 110, that's when we would see a break even, but who's gonna take that gamble? Now, this is a case of a family that's got about 4.5 million, but we see this with families that have 2 million and above every day of the week. And it has to do with what your tax bracket's gonna be in retirement, what type of assets you have, what your lifestyle is going to be. Those are the main factors. Now, obviously, longevity. If you don't have longevity in your family or your health isn't good, well, chances are you may want to take Social Security as early as possible so you can, again, get as much out before you do pass down the road. A lot of people say, well, if I've got longevity, that's a reason to wait. That's true. If you have longevity in the family, health is good, you may be a candidate to wait all the way out till 70. But the question is, do you know? That's the ticket here. What I want to do is offer you our Social Security Decision Guide. And this will help you get a better sense of how families are making educated decisions around claiming their Social Security benefits and coordinating that with their retirement income. Email me right now, retire@reapfinancial.com. That's retire@reapfinancial.com. My team will have it on its way to your inbox. Until we see you again, all the best to you and the family.